Dear students, continuing our lectures on bioorganic chemistry, today we will discuss basic concepts about enzymes, and this is our fourth lecture in this series. Enzymes, they are biological catalysts, and their action is same as we see that of chemical catalyst. They also accelerate the rate of reaction, and here the reaction involved is a biochemical reaction in the reaction system. So whereas chemical catalyst, they accelerate the rate of chemical reactions, maybe inorganic reactions, organic reactions, physical reactions. So here the enzymes, they will act as biological catalyst and they will accelerate the rate of biochemical reactions. And these enzymes, they are highly specialized proteins which have high catalytic power. Their power of catalysis is very high in comparison to chemical catalyst. And the similarity about the enzymes with that of chemical catalyst is that they are also not used up in the reaction like chemical catalyst, but the difference between chemical catalyst and enzymatic catalyst is the enzymes, they are produced by living cells only. Then enzymes, they run a diverse range of biochemical reactions under normal cellular conditions, and one more action of enzymes is that they show a high degree of specificity for different types of products which are formed from biochemical substrates. Then they function in dilute aqueous solutions, and enzymes, they are active under very mild conditions of temperature and pH. The similarities between enzymes and inorganic catalyst is, as I have told you, similarity is that they remain unaltered at the end of the reaction. So they are not consumed during the reaction. So they are not used up during the reactions. And like chemical catalysts, they are also effective in small quantities. So only small amount of the catalyst is required for any biochemical reactions. Then neither they alter end products nor the equilibrium of the reaction. Both of these, inorganic catalysts as well as biochemical catalysts, that is enzymes or chemical catalysts, they neither alter the end products nor they alter the equilibrium of the reaction. And these biochemical catalysts, that is enzymes, that differ from chemical catalyst in these terms. First is they are highly specific in nature. Enzymes are highly specific in nature, or they have high specificity for different types of reactions, whereas chemical catalysts, they are not so specific. Then enzymes, they are affected very much by pH. They become denatured if pH is highly acidic or highly basic, then activity of the enzyme stops. Then enzymes, they are also denatured at high temperature. So the normal range up to which the enzymes, they are active is 45 degrees centigrade. Above this temperature, denaturation of enzymes takes place. But nowadays few enzymes are also reported which can work even at 100 degrees centigrade or even more than 100 degrees centigrade. Such enzymes, they are called as thermostable enzymes, but only few examples of such enzymes are there. Then they are affected by presence of other substances, that even if a small amount of impurity of other substances is present, then activity of the enzyme will be affected to a greater extent. The general characteristics of enzymes are they are made up of proteins. So enzymes, they are proteinaceous in nature, and their molecular weight ranges from 12,000 to over 10 lakh or over 1 million molecular weight may be there of the enzyme, depending upon the type of enzyme which is there. Then some enzymes, they consist only of polypeptides, and they don't contain any chemical group other than amino acid residues. So amino acids, they combine with each other to give us peptides, and peptides, they polymerize to give us polypeptides. So some enzymes, they are formed of only polypeptides. However, most of the enzymes, they require an additional chemical component for the activity of those enzymes, and this additional chemical component is called as a cofactor. And this cofactor may be either inorganic cofactor, or this may be a complex molecule which is known as coenzyme. The most common cofactors which are inorganic in nature, they are ferrous ions or manganese ions or zinc ion. These are few of the very common cofactors, whereas the common coenzymes, they are examples are thiamine pyrophosphate, acetyl coenzyme A, or FAD, flavin adenine dinucleotide. So these are examples of some of the common coenzymes which have been reported for different types of enzymes catalyzed reactions. Now coenzymes, as I have told you, they are organic compounds where they are non-covalently bound to the enzyme protein, and they are responsible for the catalytic activity of several enzymes. So few examples are given over here. For example, coenzyme ATP, this is used for transfer of phosphate group from ATP through this coenzymatic reaction. Then biotin is also a coenzyme which is required for carboxylation reactions of different types of biochemical reactions. Then coenzyme A, this is used for transfer of acyl group from the coenzyme to different types of biochemical substrates. Then FAD or FMN mononucleotide or adenine dinucleotide. So these are used for transfer of hydrogen from the coenzyme to the substrate. Then similarly NAD plus or NADP, adenine dinucleotide phosphate, this is also used for transfer of hydrogen. Then pyridoxal phosphate, this is used for transamination reaction. So transfer of amino group from one substrate or from other substrate is used by this coenzyme. Then TPP, this is used for transfer of acetaldehyde. So these are different coenzymes, and these are some of the important functions which they perform in combination with some enzymes. Similarly, as I have told you, there may be inorganic cofactors which are used in combination with enzymes, and the enzyme will become active only if this cofactor is present. For example, alcohol dehydrogenase enzyme is active in presence of zinc 2 plus ions. So this will activate the enzyme for different types of biochemical reaction. The arginase enzyme requires manganese 2 plus as cofactor for its activity. Then cytochromes, they require either ferrous or ferric ions for their activity. Similarly, phosphohydrolases, they require magnesium 2 plus ions for their activity. Tyrosinase enzyme, this requires sodium ions for its activity. So you can see that these are the common cofactors which are required for activity of different types of enzymes. Then coenzymes, they are generally derived from water soluble B complex vitamins, and they carry out transfer of hydrogen or any other group of substrate in an enzymatic reaction, for which you have seen the examples of some common coenzymes in the previous slides. So these coenzymes, they function as acceptors or donors of specific groups. These specific groups may be hydrogen atoms also or electrons also, and these hydrogen or electron or specific groups, they are transferred to the substrate. You can see over here a complete catalytically active enzyme. Together, this is the enzymatic part, whereas this is the coenzyme which is present, and the complete catalytic enzyme together with its coenzyme or cofactor, this is called as holoenzyme. And the protein part, this part which is holoenzyme minus coenzyme, this is called as apoenzyme. So coenzyme is prosthetic part, whereas this is proteinaceous part, apoenzyme. And on the apoenzyme, there are present active sites and regulatory sites. So active sites, they are used up for the enzymatic action, whereas regulatory sites, they are used up for regulation of enzyme action. So these different sites, they are responsible for the rate of different biochemical reactions. Then the advantages of enzymes in comparison to chemical catalysis, the most important is that enzymes, they are highly specific in their mode of action. They have high catalytic power. Then all these conditions I have already told you, and they work under mild conditions of temperature and pH. And enzymes, they are regioselective and stereospecific in their action, and we will get regioselective or stereospecific products through enzymatic catalysis. And this enzymatic process is an eco-friendly process, and energy requirements of this enzymatic process, they are very low in comparison to chemical catalysis. The drawbacks of enzymatic reactions is, the most important drawback is that majority of enzymes, they have very high cost. Their cost is very high, and then their stability of the enzymes is also questionable. They are highly unstable in nature. Most of the enzymes, they are highly unstable, and because of that, this is the major drawback in case of enzymes. Then they can contaminate the product also. Then, as I have told you, that at high temperature, that is if temperature becomes more than 45 degrees centigrade, the enzymes, they become denatured. The activity of the enzymes is lost. Similarly, activity of enzymes is also lost if the conditions, they are highly acidic or highly basic. So at highly acidic pH or highly basic pH also, denaturation of the enzymes takes place. Then if we compare the mechanism of these two catalysis, chemical catalysis and enzymatic catalysis. In chemical catalysis, we know that lowering of the activation energy can be explained using transition state theory. For example, if we take the most common example of hydrogenation of alkenes, we know that when hydrogenation is done in presence of palladium metal on charcoal, then the hydrogen that form a transition complex which is hydrogen is adsorbed on the surface of the metal, palladium on charcoal. So when this is adsorbed, this type of complex of the hydrogen with the metal on charcoal is formed, which interacts with the substrate, and substrate in this case is alkene. So the unsaturated hydrocarbons, they react with this hydrogen, and the catalytic hydrogen in this case takes place through syn addition, that is from the same side these hydrogen atoms, they are added to the carbon carbon double bond to give us these types of saturated alkanes as the product. So this type of transition state is formed which gets converted into the product. So lowering of the activation energy in case of chemical catalysis is coming through transition state. Now if we compare the activation energy requirements for conversion of different substrates into products, we know that if the amount of energy required for the uncatalyzed reaction is this, given by this red line. So that means this much is the free energy change required for conversion of the substrate into the transition state of this uncatalyzed reaction when we are not using any catalyst, either chemical or enzymatic. So this much amount of energy is required for conversion of the substrate into this transition state. But when we will use any catalyst, either enzymatic catalyst or chemical catalyst, what will happen is that the amount of energy required for conversion of the substrate into the transition state will be lowered. So now only this much amount of energy is required for conversion of substrate into this transition state, and then through this transition state they will be converted into the product. And we can see over here that amount of activation energy required for conversion of reactants through this transition state to products becomes lowered when we are using the catalyst, and catalyst can be either enzyme or a chemical catalyst. So this is how the different potential energy level diagrams explain that how the catalysis lowers the energy required for conversion of the substrate into a product. Now the enzymatic catalysis, this is characterized by an exceptional increase in the rate of the reaction, and in some cases the rate of the reaction increases of the order of 10 to the power 17 times of that of uncatalyzed reaction. And in general the enzymes, they increase the rate of reaction from 10 to the power 5 to 10 to the power 17 times of the uncatalyzed reactions. And moreover, the product forms, they are highly specific in nature. So high specificity is also there, and there is an exceptional increase in the rate of the reaction when enzymatic catalysis takes place. And enzymatic catalysis take place through some specific active sites which are present on the enzyme. The substrate approaches these active sites, and these active sites, they act as a lock, whereas the active sites of the substrate, they act as a key. And then lock and key, they bind to the active sites of the enzyme, then we will get an enzyme substrate complex. And enzymatic catalysis will only take place if a stable enzyme substrate complex is formed during the enzymatic reaction or biochemical reaction, and after this, reorientation of different bonds will take place after the formation of enzyme substrate complex, and the product will be formed. And this theory is called as lock and key theory of enzyme catalysis. Now, the most important property of enzymes, as I have told you, is the specificity of enzymes. That enzymes, they are very specific in their choice of substrates and the choice of reactions which they will catalyze. And this is one of the most unique features of the enzymatic catalysis, which differentiates the enzymes from chemical catalysts. And this specificity of any enzyme can be of these four types. It may be absolute specificity, it may be group specificity, it may be reaction specificity, or it may be optical specificity. So depending upon this specificity, we will get the type of product through enzyme catalysis. First is absolute specificity. So the enzymes which catalyze only one particular reaction with a single specific substrate, they are said to exhibit absolute specificity. So we will take few examples. For example, if we are having, say, L-amino acid, and we use L-amino acid oxidase as the enzyme, then this L-amino acid will be converted into alpha keto acid. So this is a mistake. This is not A, but this is alpha keto acid. So similarly, if instead of L-amino acid I take D-amino acid as the substrate and I use the same L-amino acid oxidase enzyme for this reaction, there will be no product formed, no reaction will take place. So that means this enzyme is specific for this substrate only. This means a single specific substrate. So that means L-amino acid oxidase is an example of enzyme which exhibit absolute specificity, because this will convert only L-amino acids into alpha keto acids, but not the D-amino acids. Then another example is enzyme urease. So when urea is reacted with water, this is converted into ammonium carbonate, and enzyme used is urease. So that means urease enzyme is specific for the production of ammonium carbonate, which is formed from hydrolysis of urea. So this again is an example of absolute specificity. Then carbonic anhydrase enzyme, this uses carbon dioxide and water for the production of carbonic acid, and again this is a single specific substrate which is being converted into single specific product, again an example of absolute specificity. The next is group specificity. So group specificity is when the enzyme recognizes certain specific type of groups present in the substrate molecule, and that enzyme will act only on that group of substances, then such type of enzyme said to exhibit group specificity. For example, the enzyme amylase. This is used to hydrolyze starch, dextrin and glycogen, and all these group of substrates, they have one thing in common, that is glycosidic linkage, which is alpha 1,4 glycosidic linkage, and this enzyme hydrolyzes this linkage only. If this linkage is beta instead of alpha, or any other, say 1,1 linkage or 1,2 linkage, then that glycosidic linkage will not be hydrolyzed. This will specifically hydrolyze only this type of groups, that is linkages of this type. Alpha 1,4 glycosidic linkage will be hydrolyzed. So that is why this enzyme is said to possess group specificity. For example, this is disaccharide lactose, and this lactose, this is carbon 1 of the one monomer, and this is carbon 4. So that is why this is called as alpha 1,4 glycosidic bond, when both these bonds, they are present in the equatorial position, and these hydrogens, they are present in the axial positions. So when this lactose is reacted with this enzyme beta D galactosidase, this hydrolyzes this alpha 1,4 glycosidic bond to give us one molecule of galactose and one molecule of glucose, and this enzyme is said to exhibit group specificity because this hydrolyzes only this alpha 1,4 glycosidic bond. So this is an example of group specificity. Then there are more examples of group specificity. For example, the chymotrypsin enzyme. This is a protease enzyme, and this catalyzes the hydrolysis of peptide bond, and peptide bond which is not at the end of the peptide chain. That is, say if this is the polypeptide chain, this is end of the chain towards this end, and this is the end of the chain towards this end, say. But this enzyme will hydrolyze non-terminal polypeptide chains, not the terminal ones. So this is the characteristics of chymotrypsin enzyme. So this will hydrolyze non-terminal peptide bonds, and the enzymes which hydrolyze non-terminal peptide bonds are called as endopeptidases, whereas those which hydrolyzes the terminal peptide bonds, they are called as exopeptidases. So that means chymotrypsin is an example of endopeptidase enzyme, and this also hydrolyzes only C side of the amino acid, and amino acid must contain a 6-membered aromatic ring in that. That means this is the specific group which must be present in the substrate if that substrate is to be hydrolyzed by chymotrypsin enzyme. So that is why this is an example of group specific enzyme activity. So you can see over here, this is tryptophan, this is serine. So this contains a 6-membered ring. So that is why from the C side of the amino acid, hydrolysis of this peptide bond will take place. Phenylalanine, glycine, phenylalanine contains aromatic ring, 6-membered ring, so that is why the hydrolysis of this peptide chain can take place over here. Tyrosine, leucine, they contain a 6-membered aromatic ring, so hydrolysis will take place at this position. So the chymotrypsin will hydrolyze the non-terminal peptide bonds containing 6-membered ring. Why this happens is clear from this example. So the chymotrypsin enzyme, this contains this hydrophobic pocket. Hydrophobic means non-polar pocket is present in the chymotrypsin enzyme, and when we are having, say, L-phenylalanine as the substrate, for example this, that means hydrolysis of the peptide bond of L-phenylalanine is to take place. You can see over here this L-phenylalanine completely fits into the hydrophobic pocket of the enzyme to form a stable enzyme substrate complex, and because of that the hydrolysis of this bond will take place. But if we are having D enantiomer of the same substrate, D-phenylalanine, you can see over here this D isomer does not fit completely into the hydrophobic pocket. This part of the substrate remains outside the pocket, this alkyl group, and because of that a stable enzyme substrate complex is not formed and hydrolysis of this peptide bond will not take place. So this is again a group specificity of the chymotrypsin, that an aromatic ring must be present, and that aromatic ring must fit into the hydrophobic pocket of the chymotrypsin. So this chymotrypsin will hydrolyze only L-phenylalanine, not D-phenylalanine enantiomer. Then carboxypeptidases, they are also another category of enzymes. They catalyze the hydrolysis of peptide bond at the end of the peptide chain. So in case of chymotrypsin, we have seen non-terminal peptide bond is being hydrolyzed, whereas carboxypeptidases, they will hydrolyze the terminal peptide bonds in case of different substrates. And as I have told you, such type of enzymes, they are called as exopeptidases. So for example, if we are having this polypeptide and this is the terminal amino acid present in the substrate, then carboxypeptidase, they will cleave this amino acid linkage in the polypeptide. So and you can see over here this is a terminal position. Terminal amino acid will be hydrolyzed. So again, when this is doing terminal only, not non-terminal, that means this is a group specific enzymes. So carboxypeptidases, they are group specific enzymes. For example, carboxypeptidase A, this hydrolyzes C-terminal amino acid in all types of amino acid except arginine or lysine. So this is the terminal amino acid when present as arginine, this is terminal amino acid when present as lysine. Now why these two are not cleaved by carboxypeptidase? The reason is that these arginine and lysine, they have these long positively charged side chains. Here also this is long positively charged side chain present in the amino acid, and these long positively charged alkyl chains, they do not fit into the non-polar hydrophobic pocket of the enzyme, and when they are not fit into the pocket, that means a stable enzyme substrate complex is not being formed, and when stable enzyme substrate complex is not being formed, that means the hydrolysis of this type of substrate will not take place by this enzyme carboxypeptidase A. But if the side chain or the terminal amino acid is all other amino acids except these two, then that hydrolysis will take place, because then the side chain will not be positive and that will fit into the hydrophobic pocket of the enzyme. Then carboxypeptidase B, this hydrolyzes C-terminal amino acid only if this amino acid is arginine or lysine, because here these positively charged alkyl chains, they will fit into the pocket of the enzyme, and when they will fit into the pocket of the enzymes, that means hydrolysis will take place. Similarly, when proline is an active site of hydrolysis, then neither endopeptidases nor exopeptidases, they hydrolyze that peptide bond of proline. So this is because proline does not fit into the active sites of these endopeptidases or exopeptidases, and when this does not fit into the active site, that means a stable enzyme substrate complex is not being formed, and that is why the hydrolysis is not taking place. Then next is reaction specificity. This is a very low degree of specificity, and these types of enzymes, they will give us different types of reactions in a non-specific manner in most of the cases, and these enzymes, they are less selective about the nature of the group present in the substrate molecule. And most common example of such type of enzymes which show reaction specificity, they are lipases, which are used for the hydrolysis of any type of organic matter like esters. So they are most effective for the hydrolysis of esters or formation of esters also in some cases when acids and alcohols, they react with each other to give you esters as the product. So both type of reaction, because esterification or hydrolysis of ester is a reversible reaction. So either they can be used for hydrolysis, or they can be used for formation of esters through trans-esterification reactions also. And most commonly used lipases, they are used for the hydrolysis or inter-esterification reactions or trans-esterification reactions of triglycerides. And most commonly used lipases, they are of three types. One is 1,3 specific lipases towards triglycerides, or monospecific lipases, or non-specific lipases. The 1,3 specific lipases, they will modify the triglycerides at carbon number 1 and 3 of the triglyceride. This lipase is an example. Mucor-Mihai lipase is the example of 1,3 specific lipases. Similarly, monospecific lipases, they will be specific for a particular carbon of the triglyceride, either carbon 1 or carbon 2 or carbon 3 of the triglyceride. So they will be specific only for one, not for all the three, or not for 1 or 2, not for 1 or 3. and most common example is Geotrichum candidum, and this shows a remarkable preference for unsaturated fatty acids which contain a cis double bond in them. Then is non-specific, they can modify any of the three positions of acyl groups in triglycerides. Then 1,3 specific, they are most important because of their potential in manufacture of high value asymmetric triglycerides. For example, cocoa butter substitutes, they can be synthesized either from triolene, that is high oleate sunflower oil, or from palm oil mid fraction. Here 2 molecules of palmitic acid and 1 carbon is substituted by oleate, whereas in triolene all the three they are oleates, they are formed from oleic acid esters. So when these are reacted with stearic acid in presence of 1,3 specific lipases, then we will get these types of products, and you can see the two oleate groups present at carbon 1 and 3, they are replaced by stearates. So this is 1 and 3 specific lipases, 1 and 3. 2 carbon is not affected by such type of lipases. Similarly here also 1 and 3, they are palmitics, they are replaced by stearates. Palmitic is replaced by stearate at 1 and 3 position. So this is also an example of 1,3 specific lipase. Then there is optical specificity. Optical specificity is when the enzyme catalyzes the hydrolysis of same group of substances possessing the same optical activity, and this may be called as optical specificity or stereochemical specificity. For example, if we are having alpha D maltose, then the maltase enzyme hydrolyzes this into alpha D glucose, 2 molecules of alpha D glucose. But if instead of alpha we use beta D maltose, then this hydrolysis will not take place. That means this enzyme maltase catalyzes the hydrolysis of only alpha enantiomer but not the beta enantiomer. So only alpha D maltose will be hydrolyzed to give us 2 molecules of glucose. The hydrolysis of beta D maltose does not take place with maltase enzyme, and this is again a stereospecific reaction, and such specificity is called as optical specificity or stereochemical specificity. Another example of optical specificity is in case of prophens. Prophens are non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. They show anti-inflammatory and analgesic activity also, and in case of these prophens only S enantiomer is acting as the drug, R enantiomer is not effective. So when these types of racemic mixture of naproxen esters, they are reacted with lipase and they are hydrolyzed, then this enzyme is active only for S enantiomer of the ester. The hydrolysis of only S enantiomer of this ester will take place, and we will get S naproxen, which is a prophen, and used as drug will be formed, whereas R ester will not be affected. So that means this enzyme here is showing optical specificity, that is, it is reacting only with the S enantiomer, not with the R enantiomer. So this is again an example of optical or stereospecific nature of the enzyme lipase. So this is all about specificity of different types of enzymes. Thank you very much.